All right, let's get started. First off, you're going to need 2 pieces of chipboard, 8 inches by 7 inches, and one 8 inches by 2 1/4 for the spine. If you've watched the walkthrough, then you know we're going to wrap this with pattern paper. Honestly, this is something I wanted to try for a while, but quite honestly was too chicken to do it. And then Tammy did a live, ironically enough, using this same paper the other day and did it just to see if it would work. I think somebody had asked, and it came out so cute. And I just was like, okay, when I sit down on Friday and cut everything for this, I'm totally doing that. So let's go ahead, and the only thing with this is you have to watch, if you're using a directional paper, that you're getting it turned the right way. So if I was using this side, it wouldn't matter which way I turned this when I cut it. Using it this side, which is what I'm going to actually have out, it does matter which way I put this in my trimmer and cut it. So that would be the only thing I would say, you know, that maybe adds another level of, I don't want to say difficulty because that's not really the right word, but just something else you need to watch out for. Okay, so I've got, using my scoreboard as a guide, I've got my paper in here pushed all the way in the corner. I've got my 1-inch template so that I get 1 inch all the way around my chipboard, and there we go. We're going to do our second piece. Put it in there. Lay our templates and get our other piece of chipboard. Okay, and then, and this I'm actually, Tammy had done this as well, and I'm actually just testing it because I want to see how it works. She had done the spine with the little wings on it so that the wings were a little bit longer. So I'm going to try that and see how I like it. So I'm going to leave it at 1 inch at the top. I'm going to do 1 1/2 on the sides. Okay. We're going to put that down. All right. There we go. I'm going to throw away all of my templates. We're going to go ahead and wrap our chipboard. So, because we are using the pattern paper and we're not using the artisan like I normally would, we do need to be a little bit more careful when we wrap it, just because it could potentially crack, but we're going to put glue along the sides anywhere it's going to bend, which is going to help loosen up the paper fiber. So hopefully, if I can talk, it's not going to crack. And we're going to be very slow and very careful when we're folding and burnishing, you know, rather than the way I do it where I'm like 1,000 miles an hour, because that's how I do everything anymore. So we're going to take this, we're going to very slowly fold this over, and we're going to burnish that down so you get a good crease. Turn it over, we're going to do the other side. Okay, and do our ends. All right, so now we are going to, as I figure out where my scissors went, actually put them away, imagine that. We are going to trim our corners. I should actually probably put score tape down before I do that because it makes it a little bit easier. I'm going to put my score tape on here. You don't want it to go all the way up against the the chipboard here, but you do want it to go across there. That did not go far enough across. Oh my gosh, this is not my day. It's Friday. It's been a very long week, which I'm sure everybody is feeling the same way. It's like nothing changes. You're not leaving the house, but it doesn't make it any less, I don't know. Since I work from home normally, that was like not anything new for me, but everybody else I work with does not normally work from home. They're all in Virginia. So it's been some adjustment for them. For me, it's just like, you know, any other day. What's been different is my son's been home, which normally he goes to daycare. We've had him out of daycare right now, just for a while till, you know, the virus kind of slows down, and then, you know, it'll hopefully go back to normal. He'll go back to go into daycare, because quite frankly, he's driving me absolutely bonkers right now. And I love him, but oh dear Lord, he's got way too much energy. I mean, yeah, he's 7. He's going to have energy, but this, I mean, yeah. Okay, so we're going to get our backing off. Let's not do that. That's not good. Let's get the backing off our score tape. And then I bought these little bottles from Tammy. They've got the pen is built in to the cap here, and then they've got like a really fine tip applicator. So we're going to see how these go and if I like them or not. Okay, so we're going to run glue right along there, and we're going to squiggle some in here. Yeah, not bad. Kind of like it. And then over and down we go, just like always. So we need another paper towel. Get some glue off of here. Not bad. I'll do it one more time on the other side. Carefully get this one folded up and over, and burnish down our flaps. Okay, so there's that. I'm going to turn that over. I'm going to very carefully burnish on this back side up against the chipboard, just to get that work down where we want it to go for when we attach our front pieces. And then I'm going to just miter this. Okay. All right, and that piece is ready to go. Let's get our other pieces. Now we're going to do the same thing with folding and burnishing again. And again, because we're using the pattern paper, we're going to be a little bit more careful than I normally would on this. Alright, so now we're going to trim our corners. we're going to run our tape on our edges. We need to check our corners. I knew I was missing something. Okay, so you want to make sure that there's nothing hanging over on your corners. So see how that, okay. Right. So I'm going to come around, I'm going to pull my backing off. All right, so now we're going to do the same thing we did before. We're going to get some glue right about in there, and we're going to get it in that area just to make sure this stays good and stuck. I'm just going to very carefully over and down. Stuck to my thing there. Okay. And then same thing on the opposite side. Kind of liking the bottle. Not bad. But then again too, I just filled it before I sat down to record, so we'll see after it's been sitting overnight how well, there's like a pin up in the inside of the cap there. We'll see how well that works overnight. Okay. Down. And the last side. Very cool. And that will go on there like that. So we'll have those cute little carts on our spine. We're going to have the clouds on the front. And that will be really cute when it's all done. Alright, so we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to fold and burnish. Fold and burnish. All right, and we're going to cut out the corners again. Now then, we're going to do our tape. Piece does not want to come off my finger. My nails are way too long right now, and it's quite honestly driving me crazy. But the nail places are closed. However, I used to do my own nails for many, many years, and actually had quit doing them when I first started to scrapbook, because I couldn't pick up little things like gems and, you know, just anything like that. So I had quit doing them because it just, you know, wasn't working for me. And the first couple of videos I did, I was like, oh my gosh, my hands are so dry, which they're still dry right now because I forgot to put lotion on before I started recording, but I need to do it, you know, a good 30 minutes beforehand so that everything's soaked in so I'm not ruining my paper. So I was just like, oh my gosh, my nails look terrible, my hands look terrible. I was like, I kind of miss having my nails. So I started getting them done, paying somebody to do it rather than doing it myself. And of course everything's closed right now, so I broke down and ordered product this week, and it will be here on Tuesday, so hopefully I remember how to do them, huh? I should think I did. I mean, I did them for like 5 or 6 years. Hopefully I'll still remember. So if my next video I'm back to not having nails, apparently I didn't remember. Or if they look terrible, oh yeah, she did them herself, we can tell. Because yeah, right now they're like at 4 weeks and they are way grown out and they are way too dang long and it's driving me nuts. But it's okay. Alright, so we're about finished wrapping, and then we can get this whole base assembled. Okay, one more. Alright, so we've got our covers, got everything oriented the way we want it to, because I mean they're clouds, so I mean as long as they're not like sideways, they're fine. But to me, for whatever reason, this looks right. So what I'm going to do is I am going to very carefully burnish down the side of this one more time. Look at the top here, make sure I don't have anything really sticking up from where you bend it. Yeah, a little bit right there. Okay, so what we're going to do, I'm going to turn this sideways, and I'm going to put tape on my edge. I'm going to put tape in here close to, but not going all the way up against the chipboard there. Because this is wider, we are going to add one more piece there, and then do the same thing on the opposite side. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of my cover pieces. We're going to pull off our tape backing, assuming we can get a hold of it. And then we are going to do our glue. In between our tape. And then, depending on what's easier for you, it's easier for me to have it turned the way it's ultimately going to go. I am pushing this all the way up against the chipboard for the spine, getting it lined up top to bottom, and then I'm pushing it down. Okay? And then I'm going to fold it in, and I'm going to burnish. Back up, burnish again. And we're going to cover this up, so I realize this looks weird on the inside. It'll be fine when we're done. Okay, we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Let's get the glue in there, that would help, huh? Okay, same thing again. We're going to go all the way up against that score tape. I'm sorry, not score tape, chipboard. Make sure it's top to bottom, and then lay it down flat. And then we're going to burnish, just like we did before. And the combination of the tape and the glue is going to make sure not only that it holds, but it makes it a lot easier to put it down, not have it shift because, you know, you've got the glue in there and it's not totally dry and you go to bend it and, you know, everything moves on you. You don't have to worry about with that when you're using both. Alright, so to cover this inside piece, we need a piece of cardstock. And I am just going to use some solid on this. That is 7 and 15/16 high. And we're going to go 6 inches wide. And that's going to cover up that entire inner piece. Okay, and then we are going to mat in their entirety. No, we're not. Not yet. Because I don't think I cut my pieces for my insides. That's okay. We will work on pages and then I will figure out our inside, front and back inside cover. So, all right, so this is 6 by 7 and 15/16. And I'm going to grab some of my score tape scraps out of my drawer. And yes, I saved the scraps of the score tape sheets because they really come in handy, particularly with something like this. So what I'm doing is I'm just getting this on the end here, maybe. And then I'm just going to push it down. And I did get slightly crooked, but it will be okay. I'm going to cut that off. And I'm going to trim up my end there. And we need about a 3/8 inch piece, so I will just run one more piece right down the middle of that. If this were going anywhere else other than to reinforce this centerpiece, I probably would have just left that, but we want this to stick down completely across there. And since this one's kind of crooked, we've got just a little bit there, I'm just gonna trim maybe 1/8 of an inch off of that, because it will be fine. It's not really gonna matter. All right. See if I can get all this scored, go over sizes and scoring with you before I have to go upstairs and make dinner, which is probably the thing that's making me the most crazy about everything being shut down. Is I am so tired of cooking I could cry. Okay, so we're just going to center this left to right, top to bottom, push it down, and there we go. So what I'm going to mat inside with is this other black, so that will be consistent all the way around as far as having the darker color for the mat, and that will be fine. Okay, what we're going to do, before I put that out of the way, is I'm just going to carefully fold and burnish. And get that fold ready to go there. And do the same thing going the other way. Just going to kind of work that crease just a little bit to help it come all the way across. And there we go. There is our album base. Okay, I am going to set this to the side. We are going to do our hinge really quickly. We're not going to put it in the book yet, but we are going to go ahead and get that cut and scored and all that kind of fun stuff. Okay, so for our hinge is going to be 7.5 high, and I actually cut this just a hair under 7.5, so you can see right there we're not quite at 7.5, because when we go to slide our pages on our hinges, we want them to just slide on without having to miter the edges of these. Okay, so 7.5 by 7. And even on the 7, I'm just slightly under because of the way we're going to fold the back piece around on this. So with the 7-inch side at the top of your scoreboard, you're going to score this at 1/2 inch, every 1/2 inch, until you get to 5.5. Let me double check. So we've got hinge, gusset, hinge, gusset, hinge, gusset, hinge. So yes, 5.5. Okay. So what I'm going to do then, so we've got all of our score lines in here. I'm going to turn this over, starting with the first score line. I'm going to fold that over. I'm going to burnish this down. And you do want to, you know, take your time. Don't rush through this piece of it, because otherwise you end up with crooked hinges. Ask me how I know that. Because I do that all the time. You have no idea. It's taken me forever to get to where I don't end up with crooked hinges. I can't even tell you. Okay, so we're going to glue. And then we're going to burnish this down. You can use score tape. In fact, oftentimes I use score tape. Did that split? No, I just have glue everywhere. Because score tape does make it a little bit easier to get that hinge down, but the glue makes it not feel as bulky, if that makes sense. So it doesn't feel like you end up with extra width at that point where that is doubled up. So first hinge, gusset. Second hinge. And again, I'm just folding this over, making sure everything's even top and bottom. And then we're going to burnish. That's where the glue came from. Okay, and then we're going to get our glue in here again. And down. And we are going to burnish. My husband didn't go on his motorcycle ride because I swear I just heard my child go running by the window out there. Which means he got dressed. Which he had not done previously today. He's been in his pajamas all day, and I don't care. Okay, so we're going to fold that back. And then we've got a gusset and then our next hinge. Okay, so when I do that, see here we've got first two hinges, gusset, and then these two are going to attach together for the hinge. So I'm going from where that one is, I'm going 2 spaces and then folding again. When you're looking at it from this side, you're going to have 3 spaces and 2 score lines. That's how you know you're at the right place. And then I'm going to burnish. And then go back, get my glue in here. I'll say this doesn't seem to clog up as fast with it just sitting here open like that, which is good. Because I routinely forget to close my glue. I cannot even tell you. Probably why I fight with it so much. Finish that down. Okay. And then we're going to fold that one back. And we're going to burnish again. Okay, so now we have 3 hinges. We have 1 gusset we haven't folded yet. It's fine, we can leave it just like it is. So again, we're going to skip. So here we have a gusset, and then these next to our final hinge. Go and burnish. Wipe off our extra glue here because of course I got carried away. Okay, that. All right, so now we've got this extra piece on here. What we're gonna do is instead of folding this one up and out, we're gonna fold that hinge over. Maybe. Okay, so we've got all of our hinges. Except the last one that does not want to play nicely with me. There we go. Okay, just kidding. You do have to actually fold it the other way first. Okay, so got this nice little flap hanging out the back here. This is going to fold back across the back and just help to strengthen our hinge, and it's going to give us a nice flat surface rather than this surface to attach to our book. Okay? Except I've still got something weird going on here. I can't decide if it's me or if it's glue. If I didn't score it well enough. Honestly, I can't tell. Okay. So, to get this stuck down, I'm actually going to use the score tape on the back of this and then put some glue over it. Let me find. That'll do. And the score tape's just so that it will stick down on the back better or more quickly. I know what I'm trying to say. Not necessarily because it's going to be our only adhesive. It just will help us get this stuck down without completely screwing up our hinge. So I'm going to put that, center it up on there. I'm going to get the backing off. Then I am going to run glue around my outside edges. Okay. And then just fold and kind of roll it down onto that back piece. Okay. And then we're just going to burnish. And kind of spend some time working your hinges. Honestly, I think, where there are some benefits to doing it with glue versus tape, I also think doing it with the glue makes the hinges not bend as well when you're trying to get this loosened up so that, your pages are going to turn nicely and lay nice and flat. So this is honestly why I kind of go back and forth that, on one I'll use tape and the next one I use glue. It's just because, when you're trying to get this loosened up in here and get the hinges to play nicely and turn right, and this one is seriously still just not playing nicely on this end. But I think it's okay. It's getting better. The more I play with it, it's getting better. So, I mean, literally, I will sometimes sit here off camera and just bend these back and forth for, 20 minutes just to make sure they're nice and loose and will work. Okay, so we're going to set that aside, because we will mat underneath that before we put it down, and we don't want to do that just yet. So let's talk about the pages, because again, if you watched my walkthrough, you will know. No, apparently he's mowing the lawn. Okay. You will know that we have a fun little file that I put in Design Space to make this cute little folio that goes in your pages that has the little Mickey icons along the end. So, the file is in Design Space. There's actually two different ones. There's this small one where if you didn't want it to be a folio, if you wanted it to just be, like a big tag insert, you would cut this one. If you want it to be the folio, you're going to cut the wider one because we're going to score this. There's also one in there that has the same border, but instead of there being a gap between the ears are all connected across here. Okay, so it's entirely up to you which one you want to cut. I'm going to use the folio ones. I'll use these either somewhere else in the book or on another project. But if you're using the folio ones, you're going to put this in your scoreboard with your border away from you. Well, if you turn your scoreboard like I do. You want to score this at 5 inches from the end that does not have our border. Okay? So you're going to have that little border. It's going to slide in, and ignore this. This was just my prototype with crappy cardstock to make sure everything was going to sit in here the way I wanted it to. And of course, now it doesn't want to go in. So when these go in the pages, that's going to stick out. Okay? So what if you don't have a Cricut and you can't go in to cut this file? In that case, and you want to do the folio one, it's going to be 11 3/4 by 7 1/4. If you're doing just the insert without the Cricut, it's going to be 5 3/4 by 7 1/4. What you would do in that case, because you're still going to have this piece that's going to stick out, what you're going to do is just take, when you've got your scraps at the end, and you're just going to put a strip of one of your cardstock just down this end. Okay, so if you were doing this book and you were not doing it Disney themed, that's what you would probably want to do. Well, of course that's what you want to do if this wasn't a Disney themed one, but I am a Disney fanatic and I was so excited to have this paper for my project. I truly could not even think of what I wanted to do, and it just was killing me because there were so many ideas. Like, how do I pick one? How do I pick one that's not too difficult? Because I know I have a tendency to get carried away at times. If you've seen my farm album, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Or my one really big Peter Pan one that I used, or well, Lost in Neverland one that I used for my design team audition, because yeah, it's like 10 pounds, I swear, it's huge. So, trying not to get too carried away. Okay. So, there are our inserts. I am just going to stack these all together and set them aside. And let's work on our pages. So again, keeping in mind that I am doing this Disney themed, this is going to be a little bit odd, but if you've watched the walkthrough, you're going to have seen it and understand why. So I have everything for our pages cut, and I am doing them in the Mickey Mouse colors, which is the black, the red, the yellow, and the white. So, in doing so, this is not artisan cardstock, this is my colors cardstock, which is not quite as heavy. So I used this page for the one page that doesn't have a whole lot going on, because, well, for one thing, I didn't have nearly as much of this color as I thought I did. But two, because it's not as heavy, I don't want to weigh down this page. So I have each page cut, flipped together. We're going to go through and score everything, and then we will assemble. So first page, page 1 and 2, is going to be on the black cardstock. So the base for your page is going to be the same on every single one of these. Okay. We'll go ahead and do them together, but they are going to be the same. So like if you're not changing colors of pages, which again is something I've wanted to try, and I figured since I'm, wrapping it with patterned paper and doing all sorts of weird things with this one, why not? Okay, so your page bases are going to be 5.5 by 8.5. You're going to cut 4 of those. You're going to have the other piece is going to be 5.5 by 7.5. And again, to make sure everything lines up, we don't have anything weird hanging off the edge, this is just ever so slightly, I mean literally like a hair's width under 7.5. So that when you assemble this page, it's going to line up right. So 8.5 inch side on the top, we're going to score it 1/2 inch. We're going to turn it around, and we're going to score it 1/2 inch again. Okay. So I'm going to fold and burnish. And then you can do this one of 2 ways, and I would determine which way I'm going to do this based on if you're using the folio insert or if you're using just the single page tag insert. If you're using the tag insert, you can go ahead and just fold these over the outside of this page, of the smaller piece, and call it good, because you don't need as much space in between. Because I need a little bit more space, I am going to do these where that tab is going to be on the inside. So I am going to miter this ever so slightly. Okay. And what I'm going to do, let me grab my clips. I forgot to go grab the clothespins from upstairs. I found a whole bunch of clothespins in my husband's workshop, and I'm not sure why he has them, quite honestly. I think they were from some work thing for Christmas party or something years ago. So I'm going to go ahead and get glue on this end. I am going to line this up top to bottom, and then I'm going to just get it right out to my end and press it down. I'm going to go ahead and clip that just to make sure it holds. And then we're going to worry about our other end that we're going to fold, and I should have folded and burnished before I glued and clipped, but that's okay. It happens. And then we'll glue our other end. Okay, so there we go. All right, so I'm going to set that aside for just a second. So on our front page, beginning of page 1, and as always, you can reorder these pages and the elements on the pages and put them wherever you want to. But just for clarity's sake, we are going to, that's kind of irritating, trying to get that lined up. Aha, there we go. So page 1, we're going to have a small waterfall. We're going to have, the waterfall is going to sit on a pocket, and then we're going to have 2 flaps that are going to close over the top of this. Okay, so let's start with our base for our waterfall. The base for the waterfall is going to be 8.5 by 4 5/8. We are going to score this at 1/2 inch on 3 sides. Okay. We are going to miter our corners. And set that aside. For the small flap, this is going to be 7.5 by 3 1/8. With the 3 1/8 side in the top, we're going to score this at 1/2 inch, and then again at 5/8 of an inch. Oops, let's actually score this right. That would help. Okay. And again, we're going to just miter ever so slightly. Set that one aside. Now, on my flaps, I am going to use some kind of corner punch. I'm not sure if I'm just going to round these, if I'm going to use the ticket stub one. I'm not sure yet, so we'll do that when we go to assemble, but just keep in mind you can round these if you, or decal, or however you want to do these. It's up to you. Okay, so our next flap is going to be 7.5 by 6 1/8. And when I say 7.5, because our pages are 7.5 inches high, again, so that this sits on our page and doesn't hang over top or bottom, I do cut these all just a hair short of 7.5. Okay, same thing when you're doing something. The width for this, like on the pocket here, the pocket is 8.5 because it turns this way. Same thing, it's just a hair under, so that when this is all folded and put in here, it's going to sit on there completely the way it needs to without anything hanging over the side. Okay, so flap 7.5 by 6 1/8. With the 6 1/8 at the top, we're going to score at 1/2 inch, and then at 5/8. Okay, again, we're just going to miter ever so slightly, and I'm doing it now so that I do not forget to do it, because I will most definitely forget otherwise. So our waterfall, you don't miter the waterfalls, so we don't need to worry about that. You need 7 pieces that are 4 5/8 by 4 1/8. With the 4 5/8 side in the top of at the top of your scoreboard, you're going to score these at 1/2 inch on all of them. All right, so there's everything for page 1. Well scored, I'm going to clip it all back together. If I can pick up my paper clips, because again, my fingernails are too long. Take my clips off my page here. I'm just going to set all that aside. So for page 2, which is the back side of that page base, we have 2 flaps that are going to fold out all the way, or you fold it this way or you fold it this way, you know what I mean. I'm sure it has a name. I probably know the name. At the moment it's gone. So for our larger of the 2, you're going to need a piece that is 7.5 by 11.5. We're going to put this in our scoreboard. We're going to score this at 1/2 inch. And then at 5.5. Okay. You could do this out of 2 pieces and, cut both of them at 6 inches and just score them at 1/2 inch and then attach them together. But where the width of the pages was such that I don't have to do it that way, and I can just do it out of 1 piece, I'm going to do it out of 1 piece because it's going to be less bulky where you fold it. Same thing with our second flap. So this one is going to be 4 1/8 by 6 3/4. We're going to score it at 1/2 inch and then at 3 5/8. Is that right? Yes. At 3 5/8. Okay. Set that aside. Underneath both of those is going to be a pocket, which is 6.5 by 3.5. We're going to score that at 1/2 inch. I think I just tore through my paper. Oh my gosh, almost. Not quite. Getting a little too gung-ho with my score tool here. Score that at 1/2 inch on 3 sides. We're going to go ahead and miter our pocket. And we're going to miter our flaps. And then clip it back together and add it back to our pile. Okay. Second page, I'm using yellow. So page base again is going to be 5.5 by 8.5, 5.5 by 7.5. You're going to score it 1/2 inch on each end. And then you're going to put it together just like the one prior. I'm not going to put this one together yet. I'm going to do it later. Okay, so for page 3, we have 2 belly bands. First one is going to be 8.5 by 3. With the 8.5 at the top, we're going to score this at 1/2 inch. Turn it all the way around, 1/2 inch again on the other end. The small belly band is actually going to sit on top of here, and we're going to do a little tiny tag folio that's going to slide in here. So the small one is going to be 4 inches by 2 inches. So again, we're going to do it 1/2 inch, turn around, and 1/2 inch, and that's with our 4 inch side at the top. See how easy that was? For page 4, we've got a pocket that is going underneath. Our pocket is 3.5 by 6.5. We're going to score this at 1/2 inch on each side. Or I'm sorry, on 3 sides, not each side. Don't do it on every side. Go ahead and miter that. Okay. We have 2 flaps. These flaps are going to be gatefold. And we're going to decorate this really cute. You just wait. Both flaps are 3 1/4 by 7 1/2. With the 3 1/4 at the top, you're going to score them at 1/2 inch. And then we have one more flap, and this one is going to be 5 1/2 by 6. Okay. And with our 6-inch side at the top, so I had to think for a second there. I'm like, wait a minute, which way is this going in? 6 inch side at the top, we're going to score this at 1/2 inch. Okay. So let's go ahead and miter all of our flaps. I'm going to clip this set back together. And I really do find it easier to go through, cut all my pieces, and then come back and like write on them, you know, what's what. I literally, even when I wasn't doing tutorials, I used to do the exact same thing. It just, to me, it helps me keep everything straight. But I would go through and I would cut everything and write on it what page it was, what element it was, clip them all together, and then go back and score rather than, you know, get the trimmer, you know, cut an element, get the scoreboard, score it, you know, or cut everything for one page and then score everything. So you're getting everything back and forth, back and forth. That's a big part of why I started doing it that way, was just so that I'm not, you know, taking stuff in and out, in and out, in and out, when I can cut everything and then move the trimmer out of the way, score everything, move the scoreboard out of the way, and then start assembling. So again, page, so 7 1/2 by 5 1/2, 8 1/2 by 5 1/2. This one you're going to score 1/2 inch on each end. For the front of page 5, we have, I have to look at my note and figure out how I did this. We have 2 side flaps. These are 6 1/8 by 4 5/8. With 4 5/8 at the top, you're going to score at 1/2 inch on both pieces. For the top flaps, these are 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. With the 4 1/4 at the top, you're going to score at 1/2 inch. Okay, that's all of that one. Page 6, we've got a pocket that is 6 1/2 by 3. I think all of my pockets, with the exception of the one the waterfall sits on the first page, I think they're all 6 1/2 by 3 1/2. I might have had a smaller one, but I don't think so. Okay, which I did not miter those. Let's miter those really quickly. Anyway, back to the pockets. So 6 1/2 by 3 1/2. We're going to score 1/2 inch on 3 sides. We're going to go ahead and miter that. There is then 3 flaps. So the flaps are graduated, and they're going to line up about like this. So I haven't decided if I'm going to put them with the big one on top and then graduate underneath, or if I'm going to do them on top and then tie it closed. It's tying with a ribbon any way we look at it. I'm just not sure which direction I'm actually going to do this. So this is 7 1/2 by 6 for our largest flap. With our 6-inch side at the top of the scoreboard, we're going to score this at 1/2 inch. Our next flap is 6 1/4 by 4 3/4. Again, 1/2 inch on the 4 3/4 side. And our smallest one is 5 inches by 4 inches with the 4 inch at the top. We're going to score that at 1/2 inch. I'm going to go ahead and miter these. I'm only using 2 magnets in this book. 3 magnets. I honestly don't remember what I ended up planning out. Oh, there it is. Okay. All right, we're getting there. We are on our last set of pages, our last page, that is. So again, 7 1/2 by 5 1/2, 8 1/2 by 5 1/2. 1/2 inch on each end. And if you're doing all of your page bases the same color, you can do all 4 of these at once. Mine clearly are not all the same color. So, page 7, we have another waterfall that is sitting on top of another pocket. So our pocket is 4 5/8 by 6 1/2. With the 6 1/2 at the top, we're going to score 1/2 inch, turn it, 1/2 inch, turn, 1/2 inch. So you're scoring 1/2 inch on 3 sides. Oops, what did I do here? Ah, that's what. Okay. All right, so our waterfall on this one is going to be 5 pages that are 4 1/8. I'm sorry, 4 1/8 by 3 5/8. With the 3 5/8 at the top, you're going to score this at 1/2 inch on all 5 of these. Apologize for the lawnmower noise. He said he was going on a motorcycle ride. Apparently he didn't do that. He decided to mow the lawn instead. Which honestly doesn't surprise me because he loves doing yard work. I don't know what is wrong with that man, but apparently something is. So this one is going to have a wide flap that's going to close down over the top, and then a small one that's going to come up from the bottom. So the larger flap is going to be 8 inches by 5 1/2. Yes, that's right. Sorry, for some reason that math didn't want to work in my head. So with the 8-inch side at the top, we're going to score this at 1/2 inch. And I might actually trim that down. I don't know that I really want that to be 8 inches. I don't want this to be 8 inches. I don't want that to be 8 inches. I think I only want that to be... Well, no, I do too know why I was 8 inches. Okay. Disregard. It's going to be 8 inches. Our smaller flap is going to be 4 1/8 by 4 5/8. 4 5/8 at the top. We're going to score it 1/2 inch. Okay. All of those pieces together. And our last one, we have another belly band, which we will do a folio that's going to go underneath this. And I realize it's a lot of picture space in this, but I have tons of Disney pictures. Every trip, we always end up with PhotoPass, and I end up with tons of pictures, especially the first 2 times we took our son to Disney World. The first time we took him, he was 2 1/2, and we did PhotoPass, and literally every PhotoPass picture, he's like holding his hand up, or he's glaring at the camera. Yet we'd take pictures of him, you know, on rides or, you know, playing or whatever, and he was just happy as could be. But anytime one of those dang PhotoPass people showed up, he was just like, no! The second time we took him, which literally was oh my gosh, like 9 months later. So he was just past his 3rd birthday. It was actually right before we moved back to Utah. Literally every picture with the photo past that time, you'd think he was some child model hired by Disney, because he would just give the sweetest, cutest smiles. And we're just like, dude, what? It was so weird. But I don't know which one of those trips I'm going to put in this book, but it's going to be one of them. Probably his first one, because that was so funny. But then again, too, I may do his first Disneyland trip, because his first 2 to Disney World, I did autograph pages for him. The first one I did a big autograph book, Mickey-shaped autograph book, that I did with the Cricut. Cut the chipboard, Mickey icon, the whole bit. The second time I did like signature blocks that are meant to go on like a 12 by 12 scrapbook page. And I really need to do something with them, because they are so, so cute. It literally took me like 7 hours to cut all of the Disney characters from the Cricut cartridges, and that was just to cut them. To piece them and put these all together, I don't know. It was like literally all day Saturday and Sunday, one weekend, putting these things together. It was crazy, but they were so, so cute. I showed them in another tutorial with either, I don't remember if it was the Halloween Disney album or the Christmas one with the Simple Stories paper. It was one or the other. I actually did show a couple of those signature blocks to kind of, because the way I had designed that book was, you know, to have a little signature thing that you could take out and hand to the character, rather than having this character in those big gloves trying to hold onto a book and sign. You know, I would slip them onto a little cutting board that had rubber bands on it and just hand them that, and it was so easy. Oh, it was so much better. Okay, belly band, page 8. Why did I score this down the side? I should not have scored this. Okay. Belly band is 3 by 8.5. Only score it on the ends. Don't score it on the side. I will recut this one. It's fine. On top of that belly band is going to go a small pocket. The pocket is 3.5 by 4. We're going to score this 1/2 inch on each side. Or I'm sorry, on 3 sides. That's where I got ahead of myself here. And then there's going to be a little tag that's going to slip down into that pocket. That some reason I scored it wrong. Anyway, this is not scored correctly. The tag is fine. The tag is 2 3/4 by 5.5. We will leave the tag alone. The tag is good. Let me fix the belly band and the other piece very quickly, since I have my scrap bag out here. Okay, so the belly band is 3 inches by 8.5. Okay, 3 inches by 8.5. We're going to score this at 1/2 inch on each end only. You know, yay for quarantine brain damage. That's all I can say. We're going to miter our corners. The pocket is 3.5 by 4. Apparently that scrap is not big enough. There we go. All right, so let's try this again. So our pocket that goes on top of our belly band, starting with the 4-inch side at the top, you're going to score at 1/2 inch on 3 sides. Otherwise, it's not going to sit on there right. Oh my gosh. Okay. So we have everything scored. I'm going to miter our corners here. And I'm actually going to take a break. I'm going to go feed my family, and hopefully I come back with a clearer brain than what I've had so far tonight. But when I get back, we will assemble our book. Thanks. All right, so let's get our hinge in our book. As you can tell, I've already screwed it up once. I had to pull it out. It wasn't quite the right size. I'm not entirely sure what I did because I know it looked right, and I know I measured it the first time around, but apparently not good enough. So I pulled that one off. I have recreated my hinge, and we're just gonna center this up on here and glue it down. We do want to use glue instead of score tape because it does give us an extra minute or so to be able to move it around if we need to and get it centered up just right and even and all that good stuff. So I am going to center this up top to bottom, left to right, as close as I can. And there we go. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and attach our pages. We're going to start from the back. Our red page is our back page. The black one is our front page. So, which, I mean, you clearly can do these in whatever order you would like, but that's the order I have them. So, and if you're not sure if your hinge is going to fit, literally before you stick it down, see if your pages will slide onto it. If they do not slide on, then it is too wide. Don't ask me why. The pages are all the same size. They're the size they're supposed to be. The hinge was not, but that's okay. Easily fixable at this point in the game. So what I am going to do is I'm going to put glue on the top part of the hinge. Slide this down on there. And then we're going to lay it over flat. Pull it out just ever so slightly. And then press it down. And that is going to help it to lay perfectly flat in the book. Then, when we go to insert one of our folios that still needs burnished desperately, this is going to slide right on in here, like so, and just leave our little Mickey icon border hanging out the top. Ta-da! Okay, so let's do the same thing with the rest of the pages, and I don't want to leave that in there just in case any glue kind of squeezed out there. I don't want that getting stuck in there. So let's go ahead and get glue on our next hinge. I've done this before where I have actually put the pages on the hinge and then put the hinge in the book. That works too. It's entirely your preference, whatever you're comfortable doing. They're lined up. We're just going to burnish that down. Make sure we're getting stuck. We don't have any extra glue hanging out, nothing moved, and everything's good. On to our next hinge, or sorry, page. Put the next page on the hinge. That's what I'm trying to say. Clearly, breaking for dinner did not help refocus my brain, so, but that's okay. All right. Make sure don't pull it out too far like I just did. Down the other side, and those are laid nice and flat, which is perfect, which is what we want them to do. And let's get our last page on here. Yeah, this truly might be the first one of my minis to actually get pictures. I'm not even kidding. Okay, then over we go. Just a touch. Over the other direction and burnish that down. All right. So now then, let's go ahead and start building our pages. You can mat them before they go in the book. You can mat them after they're in the book. It's entirely up to you. Just to keep this moving along tonight, I am going to mat them after the fact. So our first page is our page that has the flaps, and I did not get my corner rounder yet. Let me find that really quickly and kind of get some stuff prepped, and I'll be back. Okay, so let's go ahead and do our pages. So I used the ticket stub corner chomper that I had because I figured that kind of worked with some of the elements that are within this paper collection. So we're going to start with our waterfall. The waterfall is going to go on the pocket. So I'm actually going to build the waterfall on the pocket before I put the pocket down in the book. So this is just normal construction of a waterfall. I have to do mine upside down to get them lined up right, otherwise they will not be lined up. That's just me. You do it however works for you. Now for any weird background noise. My husband's in setting up a new litter box for the cat, and apparently the cat's in there helping or talking to him or something. There's our waterfall, and just to help hold this down while we are getting the rest of this assembled, I am going to just throw some paper clips on there so that it's not trying to pull too badly when we're getting the rest of this on here. So alright, so our flaps. We need to put the flaps down before we put the pocket with the waterfall down. So you'll remember these have 1/8 of an inch gusset. I fold and burnish on the first score line only, so we're not going to do that one yet. And then line it up and put it down. Okay, you don't want it totally to the edge because you don't want it running into where the page has to fold back and forth, but you want it close. Okay. Man, this stuff does not want to glue for me tonight. Okay. And once it's glued down, then you can push back and get that second line folded so that you have that 1/8 inch gusset. There we go. There we go. There we go. Okay. So I am not playing with this tonight. And I usually do use score tape on my pockets just because it just makes it easier to come down. You're not trying to get all the flaps tucked under when there's light glue, and it just works easier, I think. Okay. So you got your flaps down. Go ahead and get our pocket on here, and then we'll worry about our magnet. Okay. This goes on here like so. Alright, so there's that. This closes down over the top. We are going to use a couple of magnets. Maybe. Put it on the smaller flap first. Down, and there is our first, well, maybe. This is not my night, I'm telling you. Oh my god, seriously, like, what is the deal with this tonight? This is like crazy. Okay, there we go. Now we have magnets down. Alright, so we can go ahead and pull paper clips off of here. Close that up, and that page is done. So, on the back side, we have a pocket and a couple of flaps. Our big flap is going to go down first. Okay, like so. think we're just going to stick with the score tape tonight because this is going out to the end here. Okay. This one can open this way or this way. And this one's going on the opposite side. This one, we're just going to center it up on the opposite side. And I think I'm actually going to mark where that needs to go, because this is how wide. A little bit easier. Okay, so this will come down here. This in theory should be coming down here, except something's off. That's not right. Oh dear God, why am I doing this tonight? Okay, so I've given up on the magnets. We're going to use ribbon on this because it just does not want to stay closed the way I want it to stay closed. So, it's fine. Moving on. Like I said, this is not my night. Okay, so page 3, we've got a pocket that's going down in here. I can tell right now my pocket is too wide and we're going to need to fix that. We have a flap on the inside there that's going to come down, which somehow almost looks like it might be a little bit on the wide side as well. And then we've got 2 flaps that are going to open out. And what we'll end up doing on this one is just doing one of the cut aparts, most likely with a magnet underneath it, to hold this whole section closed. So we're going to go ahead and get our side flaps on first. Okay. And help me if I have to get the undo out one more time tonight. I'm just done. Because this has just not been my night. And this is why sometimes truly it is easier to assemble the pages outside the book and then put them in. But that doesn't always work well either, so you know, it's really a preference thing. Okay. So I didn't want to do that just yet. I'm going to take just a tiny bit off the side of this one, about a 1/16 of an inch. We will go ahead and repunch our little stub there, and then we'll put it in here. I just want to center it Put it at the top of the page. Okay. And this one, I'm actually going to take about 1/8 of an inch off of that. And then I'm going to redo my score line. Which, you know, it happens. It's not a big deal. I could completely recut this if I wanted to, but at the moment, we're just going to go with it. All right. So I'm going to pull the backing off of this. And really, this is why it's a good idea before you start gluing, or you know, you get all the backing off of something, that you kind of hold it in place, dry fit it essentially, and make sure it's going to work before you glue it and have to tear it apart. And I love how I'm saying this, and literally that's all I feel like I've done tonight, because I've pulled everything apart on these at least once. But, you know, do as I say, not as I do. Isn't that the phrase? Oops, I have to trim that. That's my problem. Just a tiny bit more off of there. I'll get that here at the bottom. And down it goes. Okay. And there we go. So again, because we don't have our final piece on there, I am gonna, I can't even really clip that one, can I? Okay, it's fine. We're just gonna still hit on something over here. Not entirely sure what. It's okay. It will be fine. So, our belly band. I'm actually going to put the small one on top first. Before I do that, however, I am going to erase my little note on here. And again, this is just going to get centered up here. Okay. Down. And then, actually I can't clip that one because I can do it off to the side here. Alright, and I could use my ruler, but I am just going to eyeball this to get this one centered. And across, and we'll get the folio and whatnot for in there in just a minute. Okay, so this one, we have side flaps that are coming in like this. That's easy enough, because again, we're just going to center this on here, and I am just going to kind of eyeball it. And then do the other one opposite. And so to make sure these line up right, I'm going to line it up exactly on top of the one on the opposite side. And there we go. These two flaps are going to come in like that. And they're actually going to close over the top of the two side flaps. And at the bottom. And then our other piece at the top. Okay, all right. On this back side of this one, we have, oh yeah, this is the one, okay. So we've got our flaps that are going to be graduated. And we just need to decide if we're going to do them so that they're graduated on the top, or if it's going to be as you open it, like, oh look, they get smaller. I think I'm going to do them on top. So in that case, I'm going to start with this flap first. That's right. For some reason it was looking too big because of course it did. Center this one. And center this one. Okay. This one is going to be a ribbon closure. I do have a pocket cut for in here. I don't know that I want to use it, but I think it's slightly off too, so we're gonna trim 1/2 inch off of this. I don't know why I just have like this mental block when the pockets are inside underneath a flap that I do need to make them smaller than I end up actually making them initially. I don't know why. It's just what I end up doing, and I don't know. Okay. Okay. So alright, so there's that one. Home stretch. I might actually get this finished tonight. Okay, so this one, we've got another pocket. We have a waterfall that goes on top of that pocket, and then we have a flap that's going to close down over the top of it. So let's go ahead and put our top flap on first. Okay. And then let's build our waterfall. I'm probably going to regret doing the waterfall with tape, but here we are Oh, no, that's another flap. Just kidding. This one goes down here. Okay, so we do have a bottom flap. I forgot. I believe that one. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Now then, let's build the waterfall. It's like, why is this flap bigger? Because it just is. Okay. So we're going to do our waterfall. This one's going to run sideways, where our other one went up and down. This one bigger. This one's like just a hair too big. I need to fix that one. So is that one. What is going on here? What did I do? And I missed that one entirely. Okay, so somehow these are all just slightly too big. I'm telling you, it's not my night. And by slightly, I mean we're talking like that much. So one more. All right, let's try this again. Oh my God, I just need to go to bed. I'm telling you, this is not my night. Much better. Okay. Some tape on there. All right, so there is our waterfall. I'm going to clip that down just to make it easier to put it down inside. Alright, so then this is going to come down here, this is going to come up there. I think we need to do just a tiny, I think this was supposed to have a gusset in it and it didn't get one. Now I've lost my edges. Okay, so you'll see how this piece is kind of pushing on this one too much. Essentially, it needed a gusset and it didn't get one. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my score tool and I'm gonna put one in there. And there you go. Okay. So last page, and then we can talk about front, back, inside covers, which are going to be kind of cool. So this one again is another belly band, and I'm going to go ahead and put the belly band down first on this one and then worry about the little pocket that's going to sit on top of it. Okay. And then the pocket goes on here like so. And then it has the little tag that's going to sit inside of it. And you could probably do more than one. It's up to you. But I think what I'm going to end up doing on my little tag is, I think I'm going to make it just look like a ticket. So it's going to sit in there like so. Okay, so there is the majority of our book ready to go, ready to be matted, have some little other finishing touches put on there. For the front and back inside covers, we're just going to do a pocket on each of them. They're going to be the same front and back. However, we are going to put a window in the pocket. Okay? So the measurements for these, you need two pieces that are 5.5 by 8. That's going to be your top piece. And you need two pieces that are 6 by 9. These are the base part of the pocket. Okay? No, not that. This. So on the 6 by 9 piece, we are going to score this at 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, and 1/2 inch. And then again, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch. Okay, so this is how we are going to do this. We're going to take our part that is not the actual pocket base. This is our frame that's going to go on the top. I'm going to put this in my trimmer at the 1 inch line. Okay, and then so I can see for sure what I'm doing, I'm going to come in here, I'm going to line my blade up at 7 inches, and I'm going to cut up to 1 inch. Okay, do the same thing again. We're going to line this up at 1 inch. The blade is already at 1 inch. We're going to come over to 4.5. Okay, same thing again. Over to 7. Back the other way to 1. Turn it one last time. From 1 to 4.5. And there's your frame. Okay, we're going to do that on the other piece. So 7 to 1. Turn it back to our 1 inch mark. 4.5. Seven to 1. And then one last time. 1 to 4.5. Okay, so there's our frames. Save these pieces, use them as photo match, use them as tags, whatever you want to do. Okay, so we need to do the same thing with this piece. So we're going to start with the long side that does not have a score mark. Okay, see score, 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 no score. And we're going to do the same thing again, only this time we're going to go start at 7.5 because you need to take into account, actually, I'm sorry, not 7.5. Yes, 7.5, I'm sorry. You need to take into account the 1/2 inch gussets on each end. Now we're going to take this over to 1.5. Okay, if you're not sure, double check. Everything lines up, we're all good. Okay, so this time we're not going to go to 1, I'm sorry, not 1, we're going to go all the way over to 1.5. Okay, we're going to start again at 1.5. We're going to go over to 5. Okay, again, 1.5. We're going to start at 7.5. Go back to 1.5. And then one more time out to 1.5. On this last one, however, you're going to go back to 1 because this time the side that's up against here is the side without the gusset. So this one we're going to be back to 1 to 4.5. Okay, so now we got to put our pocket down. So we get all the crud off the scissors. This is going to fold. And that's going to sit perfectly on top. And we're going to put some acetate in between there. We might even pop this up and make this into a little shaker window. I haven't decided that part yet. We might just leave it as is, and then we can put some stickers or some jewels or, you know, enamel dots or something on the acetate on the top there. We're going to do it again with this other pocket. So you're going to start with the side that does not have a score line, and you're going to start at 1 inch and at 7.5. 7.5 to 1.5. Turn. You're going to go out to 1.5 on this side. Start at 1.5 here and go to 5. Okay. Again, out to 1.5. You bring this over to 7.5 and go back across to 1.5. And then the final side, since you're back, you're going to go out to the 1.5 here. You're going to start this one at 1 because this is the side again that does not have the score mark. You're going to take this one to 4.5. And there's your other frame. Literally can't glue anything tonight, but I can do this, so go figure, right? Okay. So I am going to miter. And we can go ahead and put the bases down. I'm not going to put the frames down yet because I'm not sure if I want to make these into shakers on the inside here or not. So all right, so let's open this up, fight with it some more because of course. And then I'm going to find my score tape because I still do not trust myself with the glue bottle tonight. And if we do decide to make this into a shaker, we can actually build our reservoir. We can put our first sheet of acetate down. We can build our reservoir, for lack of a better term, where we're going to put our little shaker stuff in and then put our other acetate on top, and then all we have to do is stick the frame down over the top to hide it all, and it makes it a really easy way to do a shaker. Okay, now our next question is, do we want your pocket opening that way, or do you want it to come out this way? I think I was envisioning it coming this direction so that the opening is over here. So that's how we're going to put it down. Okay. Again, you don't want to get this end too close to that hinge. So we're actually going to come out, turn it this way so I can see better what it is that I'm trying to do here. We're going to come out about 1/8 of an inch. All right, there's our first one. Let's get our second one. Okay, we're going to line this one up the same way. Come out 1/8 of an inch. And then I'm going to pull these off the side just because this isn't as stable at this point as a normal pocket would be, where it's going to just automatically kind of go flat. And there you go. All right, so I will be back with some matting and we will figure out what we're going to do exactly with our pockets here on the inside. And then I have a really cool element that we're going to do for the front. Okay, so I've got the book mostly matted. We're going to go over a couple of the little elements that I'm doing in the book that I want to show you. But first, I wanted to show you something I added to the little inserts that go in each page. So I was noticing that my little Mickey ears were bending every time I bumped one of these wrong. So what I did is I created an extra layer for those in the Cricut file that you will just cut and then just layer on there just like that, just to reinforce that that layer so that it's not bending every time you bump those. So just wanted to show you that really quick. So let's go to our next element. So this page has the pocket and the big flap there, and then the gatefold closure. And what we're going to do to keep this closed is I've got just a little half of a Mickey icon here that we're going to put down here. I have it marked so that I can cut it in half in the middle. So you can see just barely here. I've got just some little tick marks that I made that are at the halfway point that I'm just going to line those up in my trimmer. And then we're going to go ahead and just stick these down. And when I do these, I'm just going to put glue on that bottom right there, and then up partway around on the ear, just to where I'm not getting it all completely covered, but I'm leaving enough space so that our little, whatever you want to call this, cut part can tuck in there. You know what I'm trying to say. I promise I'm not really this brain damaged normally. It's just been one of those days. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Okay, so you're going to have this cute little Mickey Mouse that's going to sit on the bottom there. And then this will just tuck in behind there. I'm not going to do it yet because I want that to dry first. The next little element is for the front and back covers. I have done a pocket on both of these that have an acetate front that we are building a shaker on top of. Now, you could do this without the shaker. That's entirely up to you. So really, you could use this as just a picture frame and slide, you know, a picture in behind this. You could use this as a pocket to keep other photo mats or other memorabilia if you wanted to. Either way, I've done one. I'm going to do the other one with you guys. So all I've done is I've got its backing piece, the pocket piece. This was the piece I cut very last. That was the, I believe it was 6.5 by 9 or 6 by 9, one or the other. Anyway, it was before this part on the video. I've just run around that with some black foam tape, which we're going to leave the backing on for right now. And what that does is that gives us our little well area that the shaker elements are going to go into. So on the first one, I did like these little tiny, they're like little tiny diamonds. And I think I'm going to do little pearls on this side. So I've got, what have I got here? I've got all kinds of stuff here. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of look and see what colors I think I want. So on this one I did white and yellow and black, or I'm sorry, red. So on this one I think I'm going to go with, those are shiny and I don't want those. Somewhere I had, I thought, maybe not. Okay, so on this one I think I'm going to do the red and the yellow and the turquoise. These are new, so it's not even open. Ugh, come on. There we go. Okay, so I'm just going to put some of my little pieces in here. You don't need tons. Just enough to give it some color and some pop when you go to open it up here. Okay, so now that we've got those, I've got my other piece of acetate. I'm going to leave the backing on it for now just so you can see what I'm doing as I get the backing off of my foam tape here so we can put the acetate down. be careful because I don't want to like cause this page to like bounce or bump or accidentally stick my finger to the score tape. Okay, so this is going to be, because there's a piece of acetate underneath here that of course you're pouring that onto. And then this one's going to go on top. Then I can pull that protective sheet off of there. You can see there's all of our little stuff, and it will loosen up after a few minutes here. Once we get this pocket kind of loosened up a little bit. And then all I need to do is run some score tape around my frame that goes over the top of that, because I've got that all matted ready to go. I just need to put it down, so I'll do that in a minute. The other thing you can do, because of course you're going to have kind of that raw edge in there, you could take some baker's twine, and this is some chunky baker's twine out of my stash that I've used on a number of albums to cover up raw edges because it works so well. But you just would run a bead of glue and just wrap that right around on the inside there if you wanted to, and then you would get that effect. Personally, I think it's fine without it. I don't know that I'm going to end up actually doing this on the finished book, but it is an option for you to do. So we've got that piece in there all set to go. The only other piece I wanted to go over with you is, oops, let's not do that yet. Okay, for the front of the book, there is a really cute little chipboard piece. Actually, it's even on the sticker sheet, so I'll show you there. It has this little balloon cluster, and I absolutely love that. And I was like, okay, how can I make this work on the front? So what we're going to do, and this is in the Cricut file as well with the page inserts and the little Mickey head for the one page. All of this is in that cut file with Cricut. What I've got is a little balloon cluster that I've done kind of to mirror what's on the sticker sheet there that we're going to build really quickly. So what I did, and there's two ways you can do this. So I've got my base piece that's going to sit here. And then, of course, there's the top piece of the shaker. But what I'm going to do, because I want each one of these balloons to have a different color filling, you can either cut this topping piece and outline it with thin foam tape, which I started to do here and decided that is not what I wanted to be doing, or you can cut it out of chipboard. So in this case, I've got 2 layers of chipboard that I cut for this, that I'm just going to glue those together, and then I'm going to glue them down on my backing. Okay. So when you cut the solid piece, you will have the bottoms of the balloons on here, but this is just a hair smaller than the actual topping piece, that they don't quite line up quite right. So I did actually trim those off because you don't need them. You're not going to see them. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue this onto the back of, well, if I get it turned over the right direction, onto the back of one of my chipboard pieces. Then I'm going to layer the other chipboard piece on top, and then I can go ahead and fill these in. So let's glue them together first. Okay, and I did cut this with my maker with the knife blade. I believe I put it on the tool leather setting because unfortunately you can customize the blade settings for pretty much every blade for the maker except the knife blade, which I kind of get why, but it drives me crazy because I really want to just set up a customized setting for my chipboard so that I don't have to try to remember what weird setting I used on it last time, so that it gets enough passes and cuts through all the way. So got that glued together. Just going to make sure it's pushed down and it's all together everywhere around there. And we're going to glue that on our back. that means my husband and my son went outside, or if it's the neighbor kid who knows he's not allowed to come play, coming to try to play. Or it could be the mail, because I think I have new pajamas coming today. But I'm not sure. Okay, so we're just going to line this up on the back here. Okay. All right, so here's our base. Now, for this, once we get everything filled in here and we get this topped, I've got just black, but these are all different colors. So what you could do is you could take and cut this, and really, I mean, you could cut this in any color. I may end up just leaving it a solid color and just deciding. Or I could take this and I could say, okay, I want to make this one and this one red. And all I would do is just cut here and here. Actually, I'm sorry, here, 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 and here. So I get that one piece that I would then glue. And then I would cut out this one and glue it down over there. And then do the same thing with my yellow and the same thing with my turquoise, so that the outside edges of each of my balloons are different. I probably am going to end up doing that, but I haven't totally decided yet. And then too, when you cut these, of course, you've got all of these little negative pieces. You could do the same thing with that, in that you could take, I'm trying to find the one I'm looking for, you know, those little negative pieces and put them down inside the balloons, and then top them with your matching little shaker sparkle stuff if you wanted to. I may end up doing that as well. But at this point, the base is ready. I can go ahead and fill these in. To top it off, I've got my acetate, which, oh, that's the wrong picture. I've got just some acetate that I had in my stash. This is Cricut acetate with little stars on it. So I've got that I could put down. And to put this down, what you're going to do is take, because you cannot glue acetate, obviously, you're just going to take your 1/4 inch, or even better if you've got 1/8 inch score tape, which I do have, and I'm just going to run that around the edges of all that. In fact, I would do that prior to filling any of these little holes. Then you can just pull up the backing and put this down right on top, sealing everything in. You don't have to worry that you're going to bump it and, you know, move it when you don't want to. And then you can worry about how you're going to top it. Okay? So I'm not going to fill this on camera, but I will maybe show you what I'm talking about with the score tape. So this is 1/8 inch score tape, if you can believe it. All I would do is take this, I'm trying to pick a good side here to start on, and just kind of bend it and press it down. And then I would start here again. And I'm just going to bend and press and bend and press. Just like that till I've got that entire outside edge covered with score tape. And then I would put my acetate down on that. You could, and I don't know that I would dare do this because I would be afraid of it getting down in where you don't want it. You possibly could run this through your Xyron, but because you're going to have to pull the backing off of this to access it, I don't know that I would do that, simply because then you're going to end up with whatever you're filling these with sticking to the sticky areas, and you wouldn't want that to happen. So there is that option as well. Although you could do it with one of those. That actually could work as well. You could cut an extra one of these, run it through the Xyron, stick your acetate to the back of it, which mine's turned wrong and is backwards. Put put your acetate on the back of it after you've run it through the Xyron. Or run it through the Xyron both sides. Anyway, a couple different ways you can do that. So I'm going to go ahead and get this finished up, and I'll be back with the final walkthrough. Alright, so I've got my shaker on the front here. I love it. It turned out really cool. I did end up using those pieces and then just edged the raw chipboard with the baker's twine on this as opposed to doing it inside. I decided inside it was fine. Just have used, just because this paper is so cute, it doesn't need a whole lot of decoration. So we've got pockets here. I've lost my entire stack of cut-aparts I had set aside, and I don't know what I've done with it. So that, of course, pulls out, and there's our little gatefold there. Does not like to go in the other side first. Okay. I've got my folio inserts here on my belly band. I've got my little ticket album, mini album, that's mini ticket album, whatever, I don't know what you want to call it, that slides in there. Got photo flaps here, and just so on and so forth. So there it is. I will get this edited and get this up, and I hope to see some of you make this, because I really had fun doing this. I got completely carried away, I'm sure. Most people are going to look at this and go, oh my god, it's too hard. Yeah, I know, I got carried away, I apologize, but if you are a Disney fan, you need to make this book. Thanks!